Hello and welcome to World Literature. My name is Joel Ellis. This is my fourth year at St. James. I earned my Bachelor of Arts at the University of the South in Sewanee, Tennessee, my MA at Middlebury College. I of course live on campus here with my wife Katie, who also teaches English. We live with our 5-month-old baby daughter Britta. In addition to English, I'm teaching a section of Introduction to Digital Photography this year, which is fun, and also do a fair amount of photography for the school used for publications, especially the yearbook. I'm also one of the yearbook advisors. So I wanted to address some of the challenges first of hybrid learning as we do world literature, and one of those is that the pace is just a little bit slower than it typically would be. Things just take more time. And I'm trying to be mindful of all of the changes that the students are going through and all of the changes that I'm going through as well, and trying to learn all these new systems, new ways of approaching things. So we just go a little bit slower. That does have some curricular impact in that there are certain texts that I teach. This is my fourth year teaching this class that we do every year. There's a couple of those that we might not get to just because I have to adjust along the way. The good news is that most of the books, there are a couple I think that were one that was on MBS that you might already have, which we'll definitely do. But I'm having the students order books as we go along. So on-campus students, I will actually order the book for them and charge it to their student account. Online students will need to order on their own. So I am sending out emails to students, giving them some lead time to order from Amazon or the store of their choice a copy of the book, but that is something to be aware of, that they'll need to do that if they're online students on their own. Please encourage them to do so. Also, hybrid learning really makes, and really it's the online part of hybrid learning, makes routine assessments like reading quizzes, things that I've relied on in the past, a lot more difficult to do, longer to make, harder to give the students, especially if technology issues come into play. So we probably have seen fewer of those than we normally would at this point of the year. But I am continuing to give those kind of short objective assignments, but also writing-based assignments that are somewhat different, some that are less or more about them putting their ideas on paper and less showing knowledge or retention. So in general, there's a lot of screen time for the students, right? And I'm aware of that. There's more for the online, for the on-campus students than typically would be the case. And certainly for the online students, it's quite a lot. I don't know that there's any way around that, but it is something that I'm mindful of, and I do recognize that's a challenge for them. And of course, it's also more difficult to meet with students than it would be during a normal year, partly because of our modified COVID schedule, and also partly because many of our students are not on campus. Do know that they still have opportunities to do that, but the thing to emphasize with them is just that they need to communicate with me about it, right? So if they send me an email and say, can we meet Thursday? We'll figure out a time to meet Thursday. It's just sometimes a little bit less obvious at the onset when on Thursday we would meet than in a normal year. But we do, the beauty of of something like Teams is that we can do things virtually, right? There's lots of options. But just encourage them to ask me if they have questions and to communicate regularly. That's very important in this whole process. One of the things that we have been trying to do in class is breakout groups on Teams. So small groups within the Teams app. And the nice thing about that is we can have a student sitting in this room talking with a student who is in China and simultaneously talking about the book or writing, or whatever the assignment for the day is. So I do try to mix the online and the in-person students so that they're still having some interaction with each other. Makes it feel a tiny bit more normal. Also, I've been pleased that the class discussion has actually been pretty successful. I always have the online students up on my smartboard so that the in-person kids can see them, and that they can feel a little bit like they're talking face to face. And it actually has been much more seamless than I thought that it would be. So that's a success, I think, of the hybrid learning experience so far. And then, of course, I'm also incorporating even more visuals such as slideshows and videos than I would normally, which is easy enough to do because we have the screen up and running anyway every day. And also I think relieves the burden a little bit for students at home who are just spending a lot of their day looking at a screen and listening really carefully, right? Which is important. It's a useful skill, but I'm trying to mix that up as much as I can as well. So world literature covers any number of different things, right? It's pretty wide open. We do, of course, talk about like colonialism and imperialism. That's one of the big threads of this class. We talk about outsider status. We do read a sort of subversive English manners play and the importance of being earnest. We look at some magical realism, Canadian dystopian novel. The Sun Also Rises, which is Americans abroad in the post-World War I period. So lots of different kinds of stories. But of course, this class is also about writing. And so I'm spending a lot of time trying to help students be competent writers for the college level. And then, of course, you know, it's always worth mentioning with a sixth form class that by the time the spring comes, grades less and less important to the students. So what I really try to emphasize with them and will emphasize with you is that this class is really about skills, right? When we're reading a book, it's about making connections that aren't obvious on the surface, or understanding a point of view that we had never kind of imagined before. Developing empathy, in other words. Being able to communicate an idea clearly. These are all the kind of skills that they're going to need at the college level, regardless of what grade they get in this class. And so especially in the spring, I really try to emphasize that point, and would ask that you encourage them also to take full advantage of the time and not worry too much about the grade. On the subject of time, I will cap it off there for today, because I know that you have lots of videos to watch. Last note, though, please, if you have questions or concerns for me, my St. James email address is the best avenue by which to reach me, and I welcome those questions and concerns if you have them. Thanks very much. Have a good day.